Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, I want to go over part of Elder Stevenson's talk called Bridging the Two Great Commandments. There was something in here that really stuck out to me, especially when we're thinking about President Nelson and President Nelson's bookends. There's a spreadsheet that I put together of these events that you have like two events, like one that occurs at the beginning or before his presidency, and then one that's happened recently, and it's felt like bookends to his presidency. Now, I don't know how much longer he's going to go. Maybe he'll live till he's 110. I don't know. But we've just noticed these peculiarities, and I've been tracking them, and they're on my spreadsheet. So I'll show that to you in just a minute. Before we get into all this, I've spent about 1 million years updating the Flood the Earth challenge. I haven't done it since last month, the 26th of March, but we did it, and I haven't done it all. So I always send out a confirmation to you to let you know that I saw your comment or your email. So if you haven't seen it yet, I haven't updated it all. I had to stop. I'm gonna have to like break it up across probably a few different days. So right now we've hit a few milestones. So the number of people that have joined the challenge, we hit the next milestone. I do it every 50. So we made it to 958. So now we're really close to the goal of 1,000. It is within our reach. And then we hit another milestone with the total number of copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared. I do that every 500. And we just crossed over 8,500 at 8,573. And there's one new report of somebody that is meeting with the missionaries. So that brings us to 147 total. No new baptisms, but like I said, I may just not have come across it yet because I'm still going through all the comments and the emails. Believe it or not, it takes time. And so over the next few days, we'll see if anything pops up. So good job, everybody. If you haven't done this yet, I would encourage you to do so. Whether you want to join this challenge or not, just share the Book of Mormon. It is the main tool of the harvest of this last dispensation, and it does convert people. I have the proof right here. So if you do decide to join the challenge, just let me know in the comments or send me an email. Make sure to include this right here. Look at the top left. #flood. That's what I search for, and it helps me find your emails and your comments. Okay. And then one more thing before we get into the topic of this video. I'm doing a lot with my Facebook page. I'm doing stuff with like Instagram and X as well, but like Facebook is my main thing outside of YouTube at the moment. And I've created a new photo album called Wallpapers for your device. I've been taking a lot of photos ever since I started this challenge, and I personally love them. Maybe there's some bias there. I don't know. But no, really, I think some of them look pretty good. And I realized, you know what? Maybe some of these would be good as wallpapers, also known as backgrounds for your computer, laptop, whatever your device is. So all you need to do, go to my Facebook page, come up here, go to photos, and then go to albums right here. And I'm going to start a collection of photos that I think are worthy of being a background on your computer or device. And I do it for my computer. But so far I have these two. I have the pulpits that Christ appeared on, and Moses and Elijah to the prophet Joseph Smith right here. So this is a great one. And then I have the Independence Visitor Center, and I'll be adding more. Okay, so let's start reading from Elder Stevenson's talk. He shows lots and lots of pictures of bridges. And remember, whenever there's like a teaching, a parable, a talk, you know, whatever, when it comes to spiritual things, a lot of times there's different layers. Okay. So in this case, he's talking specifically, specifically about the two great commandments. But I think that we can draw a little bit more from it because I think some of this applies to many different things. Okay. So he says, when traveling, we have little time for sightseeing. However, when possible, I spend a few moments in a particular passion. I have an interest in architecture and design and a special fascination with bridges. Suspension bridges amaze me. Whether it's the Rainbow Bridge in Tokyo, the Sing Ma Bridge in Hong Kong, the Tower Bridge in London or others I have seen, I marvel at the engineering genius built within these complicated structures. Now listen to this. Bridges take us places we otherwise would not be able to go. This is the key concept in this video, what I'm about to propose. Bridges take us places we otherwise would not be able to go. And then he says, in parentheses, before I continue, I note that since this message was prepared, a tragic bridge incident occurred in Baltimore. We mourn the loss of life and offer condolences to affected families. At some point, you guys, I'm going to have to do a video where something is said in general conference and then something happens. Or in this case, this message was already prepared and something happened before it was delivered in general conference. Just right off the top of my head, I'm thinking about this right here, about bridges, and then the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland. But there was also President Oak's Second Coming talk in April 2004 General Conference, where his talk was about the Second Coming, and he goes over the main signs to look for when it comes to the Second Coming. And later that year, the day after Christmas, there was a gigantic earthquake and tsunami that hit Indonesia. And since that talk, there's been many more very deadly events compared to prior to his talk. We've talked about this on the channel before. And then the other one, I can't remember this general authority's name, but he's from Japan. And he gave a talk talking about tsunamis, if I remember right. And he gave that talk before the March 11th, 2011 earthquake and tsunami that hit Japan. He gave a talk. He was a 70. He was an apostle, but he gave a talk about tsunamis, and then it happened where he was from. So I'm not just going to ignore this. You know, you could say, well, Elder Stevenson's just being sensitive. Yes, he is. But I don't think it's a coincidence. I've done a video about this incident before. Here it is on X. I've reposted this on my X account. You can find these videos really easily. A cargo ship lost navigation and it hit this bridge. Fortunately, not many people died because the police were able to get people off the bridge, but it essentially took down most of the bridge. And this is a bridge named after the person that wrote the national anthem. In the video that I did about this, we talked about how recently there's been a lot of signs that seem to be specific to our nation. For example, the first ever blood moon on election day in 2022. It wasn't the presidential elections, it was other national elections, but the first time, it was in 2022. There was an incredible photo taken of the Statue of Liberty recently that showed lightning hitting it, which lightning always hits the Statue of Liberty. But whenever you capture it, it sends a message because then you have viewers that actually see it. And therefore, it can be used as a sign. And around that same time, there was a rare earthquake that hit northern New Jersey, and it shook the Statue of Liberty. So there's a lot of what seems to be America-specific signs. You could also include the eclipses. There's many different ways that you can look at the eclipses, but one thing that people picked up on right away around the time of the 2017 eclipse is that these two eclipses make a big X over America. So, you know, that's something to think about. Anyway, back to the talk. Okay, so remember, bridges take us places we otherwise would not be able to go. Recently, a conference assignment took me to California, where I once again crossed the iconic Golden Gate Bridge, regarded as an engineering wonder of the world. This monumental structure intertwines beautiful form, functional purpose, and masterful engineering. It is a classic suspension bridge with bookend towers, supported by massive piers. Now, I don't know that any of them watch my channel, but it would be interesting because we've talked about Bookends a lot, and I'm not claiming that he watches my channel. Maybe it's just the Lord giving us this hint through him. I don't know. But bookend, as soon as he said this word, it stuck out to me. So let's look at these pictures of bridges. Okay. Yeah, bookend towers. You have like these twin towers. He described them in his talk as bookend towers, which that's a little bit odd to me. But I don't know. So I have this spreadsheet that I was talking about earlier called, and by the way, the link for my spreadsheets is in the description box of each video. Looks like there's 5 people looking at it right now as I'm making this video. We're looking at the tab called Prophets, President Nelson's Bookends. So as I've done this channel, started noticing a lot of things. I've noticed things myself. You guys have sent me things, and I have to keep track of it. You know, we should all keep track of spiritual impressions and things that we observe and, notable things. And this is how I do it, was with spreadsheets. And there just started to be this like collection of things that happen. Like one event would happen at the beginning of President Nelson's presidency and one more recently. Probably the biggest example of that is these eclipses that we were just talking about. Now, let me really quickly remind you that in the October 2017 General Conference, Elder Stevenson gave a talk called Spiritual Eclipse. And guess what he said? On August 21st of this year, 2 rare events occurred that captured the attention of people around the world. The first was the 90th birthday celebration of our beloved prophet, President Thomas S. Monson. And then later he says, the other rare and heavenly event occurring on the same day and captivating millions worldwide was a total solar eclipse. This was the first time such an eclipse had marched across the entire United States in 99 years. Have you ever seen a solar eclipse? So I just think it's interesting that he's talking about these bookend towers of bridges. And just after the eclipse of 2017, he was taking note that that eclipse took place on the same day as President Monson's birthday, his 90th birthday, and the first time in the United States in 99 years. It's a lot of nines. We've been talking about nines. We've talked about this before, but let's just keep that in mind as we continue. Just a few months before President Nelson became president of the church, that's when we had the 2017 eclipse. The path of totality went over Jackson County, or in other words, the site of the New Jerusalem. It went over Adam-on-Diamond. It went over far west. I better pull up Google Earth so I can show you. Okay, and then, so that, that seems kind of ominous by itself. Okay, here we go. These are the paths of these eclipses. The paths of totality. In the case of this one, the path of annularity, the one that went over Utah because it was an annular eclipse. Okay, so let me turn off church headquarters. I'll turn on church sites. And you'll see the first eclipse, it went over these 3. And it was just wide enough in order to cover all 3 of these. And then the one that just happened went over the Kirtland Temple, and that's why I was there to see it, and I'm so glad that I did. It also went over Hiram, Ohio, which was the headquarters of the church for a while, and then the Sacred Grove. So these are all a lot of these are places where Christ has appeared. Sacred Grove, Kirtland Temple. He's appeared in the past and possibly recently at Adam-on-Diamond. He appeared there premortally to Adam when Adam was still alive. And then the first sessions of General Conference may have already, or of Adam-on-Diamond may have already happened, and he may have appeared there already. And then at some point, and maybe already, he'll come to Jackson County, Missouri. So anyway, very significant sites. And then we have the one that's kind of like not in the middle, but we have this one that went over Utah. And then just as a reminder, it went over went through the one path that it could take to miss all the temples in Utah, except for this one, the Monticello, Utah temple. And at the time, the Manti temple was not in operation, and the Ephraim temple is under construction. So in my mind, these are very, very church-specific eclipses. I'm aware of the Salems. I'm aware of the Ninevehs, and I think that's interesting and significant. It's something that other Christians can pick up on. But these eclipses are for us specifically, in my mind. That's what I think. because they're specific to our church. So going back to this, so you have like bookends, and maybe we should look at this like a bridge. Okay, maybe this is a type of symbolic bridge for us to observe, for us to know that we're in a bridge-like moment. And we do have some evidence of that outside of just my brain and your brain. When we go to news articles like this is December 2019 is when this article came out. President Nelson, a hinge point in the history of the church, in reference to the Rome, Italy temple being dedicated. And you can see it was a major event. All 15 went to this dedication. That's rare. I'm not sure if it's happened any other time. Maybe it has, but not recently. In fact, the same person that wrote this one, Sarah Jane Weaver, I always read a bunch of her articles. It'd be cool to talk. Sarah, if you watch my channel, can I talk to you and maybe do an interview? If not, that's okay. I know I'm a weirdo. But she wrote this one this year in March, just like a week or two after the Kirtland Temple came back into the church. And she did like a look back at, you know, the hinge point, the fulfillment of that hinge point, and relating it to temples. And the hinge point could refer to more than just temples, but yeah, I think she's pretty close there, that it definitely has to do with all these temples that have been built, and significant temples like the Rome, Italy temple, as well as the Kirtland Temple coming back to us. So, you know, in this case, we're talking about hinge point, but you could also think of it as just a time that's really significant. President Nelson's time as president of the church. I think maybe it's a bridge. I think it's a bridge. Look at all the things that he's done, or things that have, like changes that have been made while he's been president of the church. There's been a whole flurry of changes. We did a video one time where there were like these things being said, like this is only a snowflake in a blizzard, in the early days of his presidency. And sure enough, you know, each stone conference, there was like new things, new changes that were being made. Just for example, you know, we have gospel topics, the gospel topics part of the website that was introduced, which was recently changed to topics and questions, to help answer questions about our doctrine. Ministering replaced home and visiting teaching. That was huge. The withdrawal from the Boy Scouts of America. That was huge. New hymn book. Let's see. The Saints series, the 4-volume Saints series has come out, which I think will help new members like catch up with what they missed this whole time. Come Follow Me, you know, just a ton of things like restructuring of priesthood quorums. You know, the high priest and elders quorum became one. Like just lots and lots of like really big changes. The newest proclamation, the restoration of the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the bicentennial proclamation to the world, temple changes, just so on and so forth. I can't go over it all right now, but you can see how maybe his presidency, with as much action as we have seen during his presidency, maybe it's a bridge. And a bridge to where? I think the millennium. These, because we've talked about how these seem to be millennial changes, and changes to help absorb a large influx of members into the church. Because a lot of these kind of like synchronize things globally. It also frees up priesthood holders. So in the case of this, where now primary children and women and children can act as oh my gosh, please, Jared, please, can act as witnesses for baptisms. That makes it so that those priesthood holders can now go do baptisms themselves, because we may see a time when it's all hands on deck. Every priesthood holder is needed to perform the ordinances of salvation. So a bridge, you know, taking us from the old world into the new world, the millennium. This is just my personal opinion in the way that I see things. I think that's what we're seeing. I think that this is part of what these things mean. You know, so we've had other bookends, like President Nelson at the very beginning of his presidency, his first message to the church, he said that he wanted to begin with the end in mind. And then he reminded us of that in the October 2023 General Conference. So at the beginning and, well, here recently, and I don't know if it's the end, but here recently. We've had this whole thing with like the angel Moroni dropping his trumpet, missionary work being hindered, and then a few years later, President Nelson calls for more missionaries, and we're currently in the middle of that surge right now. And after he does that call for missionaries, just a few months later, over Salt Lake and also southern Idaho, and then all the way down to Provo, there was a meteor that went over northern Utah, which caused a large boom. So March 18th of 2020, the angel Moroni goes quiet. He's no longer, blowing his horn. And then after President Nelson calls for missionaries a few months later, a huge boom, like a very large, loud sound coming from the heavens, during this missionary surge. So it's like another bookend. There's been interesting things going on with blue moons during his presidency. Blue moons they're regular. They're not like rare. They happen every few years. But what doesn't happen every few years is when you have a blue moon, which is like 2 full moons within the same calendar month, is when you have a blue moon that's mixed with other things. So 17 days after he became president of the church, it wasn't just a blue moon, it was a super blue blood moon. I did a video about that. That was rare. Just 17 days after he became 17th president of the church. And then on Halloween 2020, there was a blue moon. And then the 30th of August 2023, there was a super blue moon. 9 days before President Nelson turned 99 on 9/9, meaning September 9th. You can't make this up. Bookends. Fox is being seen at the Temple Mount. The first time that they were seen and stories written about. And this has to do with Jewish, the way that they interpret scripture. They view it as a sign of the third temple being constructed soon. So August 7th, 2019, Fox is seen on the Temple Mount during the 9-day period of austerity preceding Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is when they commemorate the destruction of the first and second temples, because tradition to them holds that they were destroyed on those days, as well as other tragedies in Jewish history. So it was like during that period, but not on Tisha B'Av. But then July 26, 2023, it happened again, and this time it was on Tisha B'Av. So they see this sign that they interpret as the temple is going to be built soon, and they see it on Tisha B'Av of all days last year. Bookends, okay, 2019, 2023. And so the list goes on. I'm not going to go over all of them. The solar flares, there's been interesting stuff with solar flares. Okay, I want to mention this one. His first year as president of the church, Paradise, California was destroyed by wildfire. And then on February 4th, Valparaiso, or in other words, Valley of Paradise in Chile, was partially destroyed or mostly destroyed by fire. And it's interesting because President Nelson, before this fire took place, he had announced the Valparaiso. Am I getting this wrong? I think the city is actually called Viña del Mar, and it's in the Valparaiso province. Either way, Viña del Mar, that's like vineyard of the sea. So you had like a vineyard that was burned down. Think about Jacob 5 on that. Whatever the case, you have these 2 paradises that burn. This one after he announced the temple for Viña del Mar in Valparaiso, Chile. But a few months before that, just, back in August, there was another paradise that burned, and it was Lahaina. You see what I mean? And then I guess the last one, okay, I'll just skip that one. I'll talk about this one. At the beginning of his presidency, first year, there was, at the time, the largest NATO exercise since the end of the Cold War. Trident Juncture was the name of it. Trident Juncture 2018. Then on the 31st of January of this year, this one is now the largest NATO exercise since the Cold War. It's called Steadfast Defender 2024. So, lots of weird stuff. And maybe, and I'm probably going to change this. I think instead of bookends, And I had put this out there. I'd asked you, like, do you have a better name for this? And I think a couple people responded, but I stuck with Bookends. But now I think because of Elder Stevenson, I'm going to call it Bridges. President Nelson's Bridges. It seems like his is a pivotal presidency. A lot of things are changing, and it seems to be really, really preparing us in a very short time for the second coming in the millennium. Okay, so back to this. The colossal, majestic, weight-bearing twin towers soaring above the ocean were the first elements to be constructed. Together, they shoulder the load of the sweeping main suspension cables and the vertical suspender cables which cradle the roadway below. The extraordinary stabilizing capacity, the power of the tower, is the magic behind the engineering of the bridge. So, here's another picture. Early construction images of the bridge bear testimony of this engineering principle. Each bridge element finds weight-bearing support from the symmetrical towers. That's kind of interesting there, symmetrical towers. Just like it feels like there's like this symmetry going on here in a way. Okay, but let's get back to this. Both interdependently connected to one another. So both of these towers or bookends, you know, being the support and connecting together. I think you could see this as a symbol of President Nelson's presidency. When the bridge is complete, when its two powerful towers firmly in place and piers anchored in a foundation of bedrock, it is an image of strength and beauty. And there it is. Today I invite you to look at this stately bridge with its ascending twin towers built on a strong foundation through a gospel lens. In the twilight of Jesus Christ's ministry, during what we now call Holy Week, a Pharisee who was a lawyer asked the Savior a question he knew was nearly impossible to answer. Master, which is the great commandment in the law? The lawyer, tempting him, quote unquote, and seeking a legalistic answer with seemingly deceitful intent, received a genuine, sacred, divine response. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. Hearkening to our bridge analogy, the first tower. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. This is the second tower. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets, the remaining elements of the bridge. So, you know, so he's using it in this sense, but I think you can apply it to a lot of different things. Let's see, there wasn't anything else in here, but I just wanted to point that out. That he was using it as a symbol for this, the two great commandments in his talk. So, I think that's actually it. Yeah. So I don't know, a lot to think about, but that's kind of exciting if that's kind of what's going on right now. We're at this hinge point in the history of the church. Seems like we're crossing a bridge from the old pre-millennial world to the post-second coming world, the millennium itself. And that's exciting because, you know, when we look at these eclipses, the eclipses seem to be two really, really big events. Some of these other things, you know, it's a little bit more obscure. I don't think they catch as much attention as the eclipses did. So I feel like the biggest bookend towers of this bridge, are the eclipses. And we just crossed this last one. We were anticipating it. It was a powerful event. I was there. There were several of you that were there too. I have your pictures here on my Facebook. I'm also going to create a new album to show people that I meet, because I'd like to remember that and just thank you for watching my channel. But we were there to witness it, and it was incredible. It really was. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.